Welcome to His Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz, Ben Ferguson with you. And today is a really fun day, Senator, because we have a special guest and we're in a special place. I'm going to let you do the rest of the intro.
Well, we're in the White House right now, and we're here with my friend Elon Musk, who really has not been doing much of anything, has not made any news, and nobody has noticed the impact. Welcome, Elon.
Thank you.
Holy crap.
Yes, wow.
Let me just say,
Never a dull moment.
never a dull moment. The first 50 days the president has spent in office, over the top. And the first 50 days you've spent, I don't think there's ever been anyone to have an impact the way you have at the beginning. Let me start with a question you know a lot about. Which was worse, the mess you found at Twitter or the mess you found in the federal government?
Well, it's hard to compete with the federal government.
What surprised you about the federal government? I assume you came in and assumed it was bad. Is it worse than you expected?
It is worse than I expected, but on the plus side, that means there's more opportunity for improvement. So if you look on the bright side, there's actually a lot of opportunity for improvement in federal government expenditures because it's so bad. If it was a well-run ship, it would be very difficult to improve.
So,
so now it's like if people say, well, how do we figure out how to save money in the federal government? Well, it's like being in a room where the walls, the roof, and the floor are all targets. So you shoot in any direction,
and you're
you
going to
can't
win.
miss.
Wow.
Again, I'm sure you would agree.
So a lot of folks have talked about like
You can't miss.
You can't miss.
Can't miss. Yeah, just go in any direction.
a lot of the crazy expenditures, things like $2 million for sex change surgeries in Guatemala,
An essential.
transgendered mice and Sesame Street in Iraq. A lot of that has gotten attention, but some of the stuff you've told me about, tell us about computer licenses in government agencies.
Yeah. So most of what DOGE is finding, you don't need to be Sherlock Holmes. Okay, it's very obvious, basic stuff. So in every government department, I say every because we've not yet found a single exception. There are far too many software licenses and media subscriptions, meaning many more software licenses and media subscriptions than there are humans in the department.
Like you were saying, like an agency with 15,000 people might have 30,000 licenses.
Yes.
and even of the 15,000 employees, a good chunk of them hadn't used the license, had never logged on or used the application.
Yes. We found entire situations of software licenses or media subscriptions where there were 0 logins.
Wow.
So it had
and yet we were paying for it.
Yes, so the government was paying for thousands of licenses of software or media subscriptions, and no one had ever logged in even once.
Or like credit cards. You found the same thing with government credit cards.
We found that there are twice as many credit cards as there are humans.
That's just
and I still don't have a good explanation for why this is the case. And these are $10,000 limit cards. So it's a lot of money.
Is it incompetence that you're finding, or is this like the biggest money laundering scheme in the history of the world that you're finding?
Look, I think it's mostly, if you say, look, what's the waste to fraud ratio?
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's like 80% waste, 20% fraud. But you do have these sort of gray areas.
Yep.
So,
Example
would be, we saw a lot of payments going out of Treasury that had no payment code and no explanation for the payment. And then we'd try to figure out what that payment is, and we'd see that, okay, that contract was supposed to be shut off, but someone forgot to shut off that contract, and so the company kept getting money.
Wow.
Now, is that waste or fraud?
Yeah, both.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
But
both.
it's sort of
If you know you're getting something you're not supposed to get.
You're not supposed to get it, but the government sent it to you, and nobody from the government asked for it back. Or take, for example, the $1.9 billion given to Stacey Abrams, a fake NGO.
Utter insanity.
Explain that for people that don't know the story.
That's corrupt. That's just corrupt, I think. That's paying off cronies at that point.
1,000%.
Yeah. And by the way, she knew. Like when you get $2 billion, you don't miss that. That's not...
It's not an accident.
Allegedly, it was for environmentally friendly appliances or something, and they've given like 100 appliances so far for $2 billion. It's a very expensive toaster or whatever.
They're really nice.
It's one hell of an appliance.
That Sub-Zero fridge, boy, it's nice.
Right. This is obviously one of the biggest scam fraud holes we've uncovered, which is really crazy, is is that the government can give money to a so-called nonprofit with very few controls, and then there's no auditing subsequently of that nonprofit. So there's no. So this is where with the 1.9 billion to Stacey Abrams, they then give themselves extremely lavish, like insane salaries, expense everything to the nonprofit. Buy jets and homes and all sorts of things.
Live like kings and queens.
Yes.
On the taxpayer dime.
Correct.
You mentioned...
And this is happening at scale. It's not just one or two. We're seeing this everywhere.
Now, one of the things you told me about is what you call
insane.
Magic money computers at the Treasury. So tell us about it, because I never heard of that until you brought that up.
Okay, so you may think that that the government computers all talk to each other. They synchronize. They add up what funds are going somewhere, and it's it's coherent. That the numbers, for example, that you're presented as a senator, are actually the real numbers.
One would think.
One would think. They're not.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they're not totally wrong, but they're probably off by 5% or 10% in some cases. So I call a magic money computer any computer which can just make money out of thin air. That's magic money.
So how does that work?
It just issues payments.
And you said there's something like 11 of these computers at Treasury that are sending out trillions in payments?
They're mostly at Treasury. Some are, but there's some at HHS, there's one or two at State, there's some at D.O.G.E. I think we found now 14 magic money computers.
14, okay.
They just send money out of nothing.
You have an ability to see where leverage points are and how things actually happen. So I remember back, I think it was September, October of this year, before the election, we didn't know who was going to win, and I was at your house in Austin. We were talking about it, and you said, you said, look, I don't want a job in Washington, and you said, all I want is the login for every computer. And I remember thinking at the time that sounded kind of weird, like I just didn't get it. And I have to say, what's interesting on this, if I would have thought, like, okay, how do you reform government? Like, sort of the traditional way to think about it is, okay, give me an org chart. Let me sit down with the people who are running agencies. And what you saw immediately is to understand what's really going on, get to the payment systems, get to the computers.
Yeah.
Why is getting to the computers so critical to understanding what's actually happening?
Well, the government is run by computers. So you've got essentially several hundred computers that effectively run the government. And if you want to know...
Did you know that, Ben?
No.
Yeah. So when somebody, even when the president issues an executive order, that's got to go through a whole bunch of people until ultimately it is implemented at a computer somewhere. And if you want to know what the situation is with the accounting and you're trying to reconcile accounting and get rid of waste and fraud, you must be able to analyze the computer databases. Otherwise, you can't figure it out. Because all you're doing is asking a human who will then ask another human, and finally usually ask some contractor who will ask another contractor to do a query on the computer.
Wow.
That's how it actually works. So it's many layers deep. So the only way to reconcile the databases and get rid of waste and fraud is to actually look at the computers and see what's going on.
So
that's what I call when I sort of cryptically refer to reprogramming the matrix. You have to understand what's going on at the computers. You have to reconcile the computer databases in order to identify the waste and fraud.
I don't know that there was anyone in Congress who understood, certainly myself included, who understood the leverage that comes from the computer and the data in particular. That Congress would think about, give me a report on what your expenditures are, rather than actually getting into the pipes. And I think that has been fascinating, that it's let you uncover a bunch of crap that just nobody knew.
Yes. I mean, in order for money to go to a bank account, it's not like we're sending truckloads of cash all over the place. We're wiring money.
Right.
We're sending money through the ACH system or through the SWIFT system. So in order for money to flow, it's going to flow electronically. So that's what you need to look at. You need to look at the actual electronic money flows.
And Tesla and all your companies, you have accounting and you have every expenditure, you have it coded for what it's going for. Federal government doesn't work that way. They don't code what the money's going for.
They do now.
But they didn't.
They didn't.
And like one of the things that you told me, you said if any company kept its books the way the federal government does, they'd arrest the officers and put them in jail.
Yes. If it was a public company, it would be delisted immediately. It would fail its audit, and the officers of the company would be imprisoned. That's the level of malfeasance in the federal government, unfortunately.
It's stunning.
Deliberately, or do you think this is incompetence again?
It's 80%. It's 80% incompetence and 20% malice.
So if you look at DOGE now, and you look at the government and what you're finding, what percentage have you guys even gotten to, and how much of it is Mars, where you haven't even gotten there yet because there's so much you're finding out here? I mean, how many? You seem like a timeline guy when you say, all right, I want to get in there and get all these, numbers and things. How far are we from the end game, where you've seen it all, been able to process it all, and fix it? I mean, are we years away, months away?
Not years. I mean, I'm reasonably confident that we'll be able to get $1 trillion of waste and fraud out, and that meaning that it will have, we'll have a net savings in FY26, which starts in October, obviously, of $1 trillion.
Wow!
Provided we're allowed to continue, and our progress is not impeded. And we're very public about what we do.
Yeah, you put it on the website.
It's on the website.
I don't know how we could be more transparent. Right. Literally every action we do, small or large, we put on the DOGE.gov website, and we post on the X handle. And when people complain about it, and they say, "Oh, you're doing something unconstitutional," I'm like, "Well, which of these cost savings?"
You're doing it in the daylight. I mean, everyone knows exactly what you're doing.
Extreme transparency.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's been this transparent ever.
So 5 years ago, you were a hero to the left. You were cool. You had electric cars. You had space. And in 5 years, you've gone.
I could go to a party in Hollywood and not get dirty looks.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah.
And
now you might not even get invited.
I think it's
Still get invited, but I don't know if I should go.
And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say today, after Donald Trump, the left hates you more than any person on earth.
Yes, I appear to be number 2. I mean, if you're judged by the various signs,
it's derangement. It's Trump derangement syndrome and Elon derangement syndrome.
Yes.
How is that for you? That's a little bit of whiplash of going from being like Mr. Cool to the devil incarnate in just a couple of years. Is that kind of weird to experience, that transformation?
Yes.
Why do they hate you so much?
Well, because we're clearly over the target. If DOGE was ineffective, if we were not actually getting rid of a bunch of waste and fraud, and a bunch of that fraud, I mean, the fraud we're seeing is overwhelmingly on the left. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not zero on the right, but these NGOs are almost all left-wing NGOs that are being funded, for example.
Yep.
So they hate me because DOGE is being effective, and DOGE is getting rid of a lot of waste and fraud that people on the left were taking advantage of. That's what it comes down to. And the single biggest thing that they're worried about is that DOGE is going to turn off fraudulent payments of entitlements. I mean, everything from Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, disability, small business administration loans, turn them off to illegals. This is the crux of the matter.
Yep.
Okay, this is the thing that why they really hit my guts and want me to die.
And do you think that's billions, hundreds of billions? What do you think the scale is of that?
I think across the country, it's well north of 100 billion, maybe 200 billion. So by using entitlements fraud, the Democrats have been able to attract and retain vast numbers of illegal immigrants.
And buy voters.
And buy voters, exactly. It basically bring in, I don't know, 10, 20 million people who are beholden to the Democrats for government handouts and will vote overwhelmingly Democrat, as has been demonstrated in California. This is overwhelming.
It's an election strategy.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's power.
Yes. And it doesn't take much to turn the swing states blue. I mean, often a swing state might be won by 10, 20,000 votes.
Sure.
So if the Dems can bring in 200,000 illegals and over time get them legalized, not counting any cheating that takes place, because there is some cheating, But even without cheating, if you bring in illegals that are 10x the voter differential in a swing state, it will no longer be a swing state.
Right.
And the Dems will win all the swing states, just a matter of time, and America will be permanent, deep blue socialist state. The House, the Senate,
Yep.
the presidency, and the Supreme Court will all go hardcore Dem. They will then further cement that by bringing in even more aliens, so you can't vote your way out of it.
Their objective is to make it permanent.
One-party socialist state. And it'll be much worse in California, because at least California is mitigated by the fact that someone can leave California.
Right, you can go to Texas.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what
But
you
they're
did.
going to make everywhere California but worse.
By the way, the middle of the pandemic, I spent 45 minutes on the phone with Elon. He was still in California. I was walking my dog, Snowflake, and trying to convince you, come to Texas. The commies in California can't stand you. We love you. We want you here.
Yeah.
And you didn't quite go then, but you went not that long afterwards.
I mean, the COVID actions almost killed Tesla, because every other auto plant in the country was allowed to open, but ours, which was in California, was not allowed to open.
Wow.
Wow.
So they almost killed Tesla.
So, as a personal matter, do you ever regret it? Like 5 years ago, you go to the Oscars and we're Mr. Cool, and now you've got death threats every day. Like, do you?
Well, these days the Oscars are boring. I wouldn't want to go.
God bless the movies they nominate. No one on earth has ever seen. Like, could they actually nominate a movie that human beings go watch?
I mean, how many great movies have come out in the last several years? Very few.
Depressingly few.
Yeah, very few. The last Oscars came and went. I didn't even watch it. There's nothing to see.
I was sad that Gene Hackman just passed away, because Unforgiven was spectacular. But that was a long time ago that Unforgiven came out.
You mentioned today here and before about the possibility of someone wanting to take you out, dealing with the death threats. We see
it's not in my imagination. You can just look on social media.
Yeah.
But like, is it
They make that very
because
clear.
Yeah, and look, I'm very familiar with that.
And they've got signs. There are people with signs and demonstrations saying that I need to die.
Do you think, are these just whack jobs, or do you think
Well,
there
definitely
are,
whack jobs. Hopefully.
foreign?
They're not sane people.
Yeah.
Do you think there are foreign entities behind this? Do you think there are domestic entities behind the threats, and also the attacks to Twitter, or not Twitter, Tesla? I mean, you're getting Tesla's charging stations lit on fire. Do you think that's organized and paid for?
Yes. At least some of it is organized and paid for. I think by domestic, basically left-wing organizations in America, funded by left-wing billionaires, essentially.
Is it like ActBlue, or what?
ActBlue is one of them. There's Arabella, the classic. It's funded by the blue, basically the left-wing NGO cabal.
how big of a threat is this to like what you built at Tesla? I mean, I remember when Teslas came out, it was people that they didn't want to have gas cars. A lot of it was environmental reasons. I jokingly said, I was like, I'm a Texas guy. I'm always going to have something that burns gas. My kids now, all three of my boys, think that Teslas are awesome. The Cybertruck is the car they want their dad to buy, which I laugh because I never could have imagined that 5 years ago. And now I'm looking at...
Well, we're at the White House, and the president's Tesla is parked right outside the West Wing, which is the coolest damn
but
thing.
I mean, you've changed a generation. When you look at my kids are 6 and 8, and they're going, Dad, buy a Cybertruck, and I'm considering it. That's a full circle in a weird way.
Yeah. Well, I do have this theory that the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. So, yeah, it seems often to be true. If you say, like, what twist or turn of fate
Well, I will
would generate
say,
the highest ratings? If we were a TV show, what twist or turn of fate would generate the highest ratings? There's a good chance that happens.
well, I will say if ActBlue and Arabella Networks,
ActBlue is a huge scam, next level.
do you think it's foreign money, Chinese money? Where do you think the money in ActBlue is coming from? And how do you figure that out?
Well, it's not coming from from a whole bunch of from a groundswell of public support, because when individual donors are looked at in ActBlue, a bunch of them turn out to be like diehard Republicans,
right?
People that have never given money in their life. So you're going to track down a bunch of these people where it says, "Oh, I gave $16,000," and they're like, "I didn't give $16,000. What are you talking about?" There's
Well, if those
Republican friends of mine found themselves on the ActBlue list, and they're like, it definitely wasn't me. So that's
if it can actually be shown that they are funding firebombing of Tesla charging stations, that's objectively a criminal act. That is funding terrorist activity, and the statutes make clear that an incendiary device qualifies. So that's a big
down
deal.
is a terrorist activity. Yeah.
Let me ask AI. In 10 years, how is life going to be different because of AI for just a normal person?
Well, 10 years is a long time. In 10 years, probably AI could do anything better than a human can, cognitively. Probably almost, I think in 10 years, based on the current rate of improvement, AI will be smarter than the smartest human. There will also be a massive number of robots. So humanoid robots.
By the way, I got to ask, how come your robots look so much like the creepy robots from iRobot? Was that intentional or just...
I was hoping he was going to say, yeah, just to mess with you.
It's not meant to look like any prior robot. We'll iterate the design. You'll be able to have... A lot of the robot parts are cosmetic. You'll be able to switch out the kind of snap-on cosmetic parts of the robot, make it look like something else if you'd like. So there will be ultimately billions of humanoid robots. All cars will be self-driving.
in 10 years?
In 10 years, probably 90% of miles driven will be autonomous.
Huh.
Wow.
That fast?
Yeah. In 5 years, probably 50% of all miles driven will be autonomous.
Now, if AI will be smarter than any person, how many jobs go away because of that? And what do people do if you've got millions of people that are losing their jobs? Like that, a lot of people are understandably freaked out about that.
Well, goods and services will become as close to free. So it's not as though people will be wanting in terms of goods and services.
So why is that? Why are goods and services free in an AI world, or close to free?
Well, you have, I don't know, call it tens of billions of robots. That they will make you anything or provide any service you want for basically next to nothing. It's not that people will have a lower standard of living; they'll have actually a much higher standard of living. The challenge will be fulfillment. How do you derive fulfillment and meaning in life?
Is Skynet real? Like you get the apocalyptic visions of AI. How real is the prospect of killer robots annihilating humanity?
20% likely, maybe
Wow.
10%.
On what time frame?
5 to 10 years.
So soon, like you see a world where that's possible.
Yeah, but I mean, you could look at it like the glass is 80 to 90% full, meaning like 80% likely will have extreme prosperity for all.
Now, I guess my view, we're in a race to win AI. We're in a race with China. And my view is if they're going to be killer robots, I'd rather they be American killer robots than Chinese. How likely are we winning right now? Is America winning right now? And how likely is America to win the race for AI vis-a-vis China or anyone else?
For the next few years, I think America is likely to win. Then it will be a function of who controls the AI chip fabrication. The factories that make the AI chips, who controls them? If more of them are controlled by China, then China will win.
More of the factories that are making the AI chips. You think that will determine it?
Yes.
And how are we doing versus China on that front?
Well, right now, almost all the advanced AI chip factories, they call them fabs, are in Taiwan.
And what if China invades
69
Taiwan?
miles away from.
Yeah. What happens if China,
Yeah.
if China invades Taiwan? What happens to the world?
Well, if they were to invade in the near term, the world would be cut off from advanced AI chips.
And
Currently, 100% of advanced AI chips are made in Taiwan.
How fast could we put that online in America, and how important is that for national security?
I think it's essential for national security, and we're not doing enough.
you're 53 years old. I'm 118 days older than you. By the way, what the hell have I done in my life?
I know, right?
53 years old.
You're doing pretty well.
Well,
So 71 was a great year.
and I was December 70, so I was just right before.
Okay.
You were the summer of 71.
I was born 69 days after 420.
Wow. I did ask Ben.
This is true.
Look,
this is true. All right, you just opened up the can of words.
I did ask Ben, should I show up and pull up a joint and say, can we beat Rogan's views? But I was pretty sure it might cause a scandal if we smoked pot in the White House.
It just turned out to be like a chocolate cigar.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, if today was your last day on Earth,
Yeah. What?
what I'm not suggesting it's going to be, but if it were, what do you think your biggest legacy would be? Of everything you've done, 100 years from now, what do you think people would remember if it were 0 to today?
And will you ever go to space?
In the distant future, 100 or 1,000 years ago, if SpaceX got humans to Mars, that's what they would remember me for.
All right, final set of questions. Who's the smartest guy you've ever met? You hang out with some brilliant people. Like when you look, what's a CEO you look at other than yourself? What CEO do you say, damn, that guy's good?
Larry Ellison's very smart. So I'll say Larry Ellison's one of the smartest people. Larry Page. I mean, there are a lot of people that are very smart. It's hard to say, I think to some degree smart is as smart does. So, what have they done that is difficult and significant? Jeff Bezos has done a lot of difficult and significant things. There are a lot of smart humans. I call them smart for a human. A lot of people who are in the smart for a human category.
All right, final lightning round. Star Wars or Star Trek?
The first movie I saw in the theater was Star Wars, so I think it had a profound effect on me. I was 6 years old, I think. Imagine if the first movie you ever see in a theater is Star Wars, it's going to blow your mind.
Best Star Wars movie?
Empire Strikes Back.
The only objectively right answer. I stood in line for 3 hours with my dad to see it on opening day. Kirk or Picard?
I like them both, but Kirk.
Again, objectively right answer. By the way, James T. Kirk is a Republican and Picard is a Democrat. And the left gets very mad when I say that.
Yeah.
Best Star Trek movie?
The first Star Trek movie, maybe?
Now that's in...
Wrath of Khan. Wrath of Khan. Actually, both Wrath of Khans were pretty good. But yeah, the original Wrath of Khan.
Ricardo Montalban. Revenge is a dish best served cold. It is very cold in space. Yeah. Although I will say, Wrath of Khan is objectively the right answer, but 4 is a sleeper. When they go back to San Francisco and go find the whales, and Scotty picks up the mouth and talks to it, then goes, a keyboard, how quaint. That's a sleeper. All right, last question. Did Han shoot first?
It seemed like he shot second.
This is verdict. And by the way, I apologize, Ben. So Ben was a jock and played tennis at Ole Miss, and so occasionally when we geek out a little bit.
I love watching y'all geek out over there.
He might have shot first though, because the guy.
He's still on the question. I love it.
He missed the alien missed his blaster shot. So why did he miss his blaster shot? Must have been because he got shot first. Now he's missing a point blank blaster shot unless they got knocked off, killed.
But it's a question of real
consequence.
But he was
going to shoot.
Yeah.
Which is Han Solo simply a hero or an anti-hero? And so I'm in the Han shot first category. I don't like sanitized stories.
He would have had to have shot first, because otherwise why would the alien miss a point blank range?
Are you ever going to go to outer space? Is that something in your life goals?
Yeah, I'd like to go to Mars at some point. And people have said, do I want to die on Mars? And I say, yes, just not on impact.
Now, that's a very good answer. The astronauts on the space station, are they political prisoners?
Some of them are.
Because
Yes.
because you could have given them a ride back, and Joe Biden said no purely for politics.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some debate about this online, but the thing is that it was a very high-level decision. So it wasn't really even a NASA decision.
Yeah.
It was just that the Biden White House did not want to have someone who was pro-Trump rescuing astronauts right before the election. So they pushed it.
Well, if you're one of those astronauts, you got to be pretty pissed off about that.
Well, if they're a Democrat, yes. So a Republican, yes, but if they're a Democrat, like, everything's fine.
Fair enough.
So I think one of them is a Republican, one is a Democrat. So it depends on which one you ask.
Well, thank you, Elon.
Thank you.
This was awesome. And let me say, and by the way, I put out on X the day before yesterday, if you were having a beer with Elon and could ask him anything, what would you ask? And got lots of responses.
Yeah.
The most common response people said is say thank you. Look,
all right.
Texans and the American people appreciate what you're doing.
Sure.
You don't have to put up with this BS, and you're doing it. I'm grateful. You're making a hell of a difference for this country. I appreciate you, and the Americans appreciate you. Thank you.
It's essential for the future of civilization. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it.
Yes.
It's not like I want to get death threats, you know.
No. Don't forget, we do this show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Hit that subscribe or auto download button from the White House. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for being with us on Verdict. We'll see you guys back here in a couple of days.